I'm the National Testing Manager for Optimation New Zealand, and I've been involved in testing for the last 20 years, so in the testing industry makes me somewhat of an older fossil, but I think it also gives me the chance to look back on many of the cycles that have occurred through that time and have a lot of experience to actually look at what's the ways to drive some of the efficiency and to continue to attack the problem that we face today, which isn't that different to what's been through the industry over the last sort of 10, 15 years. The whole simple fact that at the end of the day, we face a consistent problem around time to market. The time it takes to test obviously impacts on that time scale significantly. And the problem is, over the years, with the complexity that Scott's discussed, the time to market's become more and more difficult because the testing life cycles become bigger and bigger and bigger. So as a result, the cost has also got bigger and bigger. So the next few slides, really nothing more than a bit of a teaser. I'm passionate about testing. I absolutely, after 20 years, I'm still as passionate, I guess, as when I started about the whole process of quality assurance and testing. So hopefully it's just a lead to some conversations that we can have later about talking about the specific circumstances in your business. Now, what is it that actually compromises the execution quality? You know, if testing is about 20 to 40% of the total cost of delivering your project, when you look at the areas of waste that are described up there, you know, the actual ability to make significant savings is really large. Okay. For us, I mean, over the last two, 3 years, not just at Optimation, but in my previous roles as well, looking at what our clients, the industry, and what our own internal projects have looked like, you know, the experience that we've gained there is that there's actually 3 common areas that, if addressed, can actually give you significant return. And the interesting fact to note is, as you look at them, they aren't actually areas that you would traditionally note as being part of the testing area of influence or the testing areas of control. They're actually part of the wider SDLC, yet they're the major influences on why testing runs over time, over budget, or has difficulties in delivering to the quality that was expected at the start of the project. So from that point of view, improving the test practices maturity will add value, but the improvements in requirements or in design or in managing your environments are actually likely to give the greater rewards. And in terms of your testing speed and cost, that's where it can make a major difference. This slide here, this is a slide from one of our partners from HCL, and it's something that actually really appeals to me as a testing professional, because when you look at and consider the total cost of quality, we know it's made up of good and bad costs, of good and bad factors. Investing in quality can actually reduce the cost of bad quality. So the whole idea is, by targeting your investment into the blue quadrants, you can actually make a real difference to shrinking the costs and the factors in the black. The flow on from this is that the efficiency around test delivery and execution will improve, you know, along with the overall quality that you can achieve. And as such, the likely cost of execution and external failures should also become much more predictable, and as a result of becoming more predictable, they're easier to manage, and the cost associated with them should also reduce. So there's quite a lot on that slide, and I think it's one that, you know, I'd encourage you later, have a look at and have a think about as you look at your own organisation. This slide here, again, you know, just trying to take the fact that as we look through the software testing lifecycle, there's actually a series of activities that should align with the software development lifecycle. The only issue that we actually face on a consistent basis is that the testing activities get pushed into the test phase of the SDLC, and they don't actually get considered at the earlier phases or at the correct phase where they have the ability to make the maximum impact on your project. So in the real world, you know, as we see that it gets pushed into that phase, this late involvement of testing is actually what also increases the cost of both detecting the defects and also of resolution of those defects, because you may have invested considerable effort in design and build, only to find that when you bring your front and your back end components together, that they actually don't play nice. So if I consider the cost, that the cost of quality should actually be a conscious choice, again, bringing it back to what Scott said, it's about being fit for purpose and what the level of quality is appropriate for your business. The maturity of the overall SDLC, and within that the one for testing, is actually a really important consideration that you actually have to make, and it's about bringing things back to your view of quality and risk that's appropriate for your company. So depending on the nature of the business and the nature of the application, different levels of maturity will be appropriate. Matching that level correctly will actually help you achieve the required quality, but more importantly, it will achieve it at the right cost and in the right time frames.